Okay, so it has been a crazy night. So the Stephen Stearns and Madeline Soto case, you have David Solomon, who's come out and accused Stephen Stearns of trafficking him in 2012. Says he knows Stephen Stearns, connects him to all these other people, and says basically that he's connected to a church cult trafficking ring. Then we come to find out that within a couple of days of him being arrested, this other guy, Santa's arrested. Santa's wife is the school teacher at the Catholic school down the street. So we're seeing a lot of church connections, aside the fact that, Stephen and Jen say that they dropped Madeline off at a church. So they were obviously very comfortable with this church that they felt okay dropping her off there. Then you got David Solomon's story. Now, crazy thing is that Brian and James, the two people that he accuses of being friends with Stephen Stearns and trafficking him, came onto a live last night, and boy, did they spill the beans. And I got a lot of questions.
I believe he is very skilled in that, not by accident.
I think a lot of people, they hate trafficking so much. They hate what's being done to children. So if somebody comes onto that topic, it hits the emotional spot and they want to do something. And so they hear about traffickers like James and me, and so they want to go do something about it. And so I understand it. I truly do understand it. We don't know who we're talking to.
Yeah, right now we've got about 30, but we'll see. It's going to go up, I'm sure.
Well, I can talk about my experiences. I first met David Solomon when he was going by the name Solomon Stone back probably almost 20 years ago at an author event in northern Oregon near Portland. Something like Newberg, Oregon, something like that. And I was doing a book signing and teaching writing. And I think he came to 3 different events back then. And he was a big fan. We had some good chats. And he was always there with his mother. They were both always there.
So let's picture this now. 20 years ago, David's 11 and he's 87. Okay, I'm just kidding. He ain't that old. But he's grown and David's a child. And he's always there with his mother. Did you hear how I said that? Like, with his mother. Like, the boy's 11. Of course he's there with his mother. And we had some really good chats. Yeah, I bet you did have some really good chats. You know what I find interesting is that Brian has known David since he was 11. But James only met him in the chat group when he was much older, supposedly. When his wife met him in a chat group and grew to pity him because his mom had cancer. So they said that they would take him in.
We just, Shiloh and I were just very trusting and believed everything he had to say because we had no reason not to.
Mm-hmm. He says we had no reason not to trust him. Then he goes into this whole long story about how David and his mother were really upset and accused this other pastor of trying to kidnap David because he was calling child services and trying to remove David from the home because the mom didn't want David gone, which is just proof that the mom didn't want David gone, that nobody gave these people permission to take David.
2011, around November, Brian Davis and I were starting to work together. He had come in and visited Grants Pass on a book tour, and I had drawn a picture for him, an illustration of his characters, Raising Dragons, the book.
He's a book illustrator. Isn't that like a work from home job? He's a book illustrator. He sits at home and draws pictures for books all day. Let's just take note of that for later. So now they meet in 2011. They're buddy-buddy. He's a little bit older than David. So they meet in 2011, and less than a year later, he's online talking to somebody through one of his group chats, and now deciding to take that boy, who they think is a minor, and take custody of him, because they think the mom isn't taking care of the boy. But the mom ain't given permission for them to take their kid.
They know that they're connected to the internet, and so you've used that as a tool to talk to them. Tell me about that.
Yes, I have a very active message forum. We've had over 1 million messages posted over the years, and I
private message with the kids and help them with their problems. They're writing to me about pornography and cutting. Fantasy edge to it. I wanted to appeal to a little older audience, more 13 to 18. What does this mean to you? Did you know that there is a Jesus who loves you? And so they come to Jesus by being exposed to the gospel and spiritual things through my books. And the kids reel them in, if you know what I'm saying. The Christian kids do.
We, honestly, like, my child and I, we were newly married, we were young, we were 20, 21 years old. We had a couple of young children. And Shiloh met him on Facebook, just chatting in a Brian Davis's group. They were fellow fans of his fantasy series. Mm-hmm. And they became friends, and they bonded over, geeking out, that kind of stuff. And at the time, we thought he was sick, but he was a minor. And he was telling about his mother, the cancer, and Shiloh was moved with pity. And so she agreed to have him stay with us. His mother underwent chemotherapy. And my wife at the time, Shiloh, she stepped in to my defense, and apparently Solomon read her comments and then sent her a private message.
Oh, no.
Telling her how well that she handled the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, they got to talking, and they really connected. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, he came across, and he said that he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
This was 2011, November, December. And throughout December, they continued talking, and they learned a lot about each other, and they really bonded. They started talking about private life, and Solomon shared that his mother was going through cancer. Except it wasn't breast cancer. It was cancer of the face of the neck. And when we went to pick him up in Oregon City, she indeed had a large swelling that was noticeable, about the size of an apple. So it, like I said, it wasn't breast cancer. It was a different tumor, a different kind of tumor. And so this story. And Solomon shared about how he had no friends, no family. His mother was dying of cancer. She really took pity on him. And it was her idea to suggest, hey, we'll open our house up to you during this time. Your mother's going to go through chemo. We don't know if she's going to make it or not.
Sure.
We'll pitch in and we'll help you out. And that's exactly what happened.
Honestly, that's exactly what happened. Only his youth pastor and Brian, who are his good friends and colleagues, say, don't take the boy because he's going to accuse you of sex trafficking him. And also, we think the mother is abusing this child so bad that we think he's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And believed everything he had to say because we had no reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could have done some investigating. And his youth pastor at the time tried to warn us not to take him in. His youth pastor suspected that his mother was abusing him, malnutrition, and tried to get selective services involved.
Yes.
And because of that, Solomon and his mother were accusing him of being a part of a cult, that the entire church was out to get them, and they were satanic worshipers. And so that's the picture that Solomon painted. And we weren't sure what to believe it at the time, but we felt it really didn't affect us too much. And then at one point, they tried to do paperwork to make sure that that the transition from guardianship to guardian was legal. And then we discovered that he was indeed not a minor, but he was actually 19 years old.
You tried to do paperwork to take guardianship of him. I thought this was just a short-term thing and you were just helping somebody out while his mom went through chemo. And then you moved to Washington in 3 days because you were scared of Dad? That's the excuse? This sounds like they're trafficking people to the border. Doesn't half the family live over in Texas? So you got Stephen Stern's family over in Texas. You got this guy's family over in Canada. That's not suspicious at all. This shit is getting crazier and crazier every day. Stay tuned for part 2.